The massive alien ship moved through space like a metal mountain. Its dark hull stretched for miles and carried enough weapons to destroy entire worlds. Commander Veltar stood on the bridge and watched the stars through the viewing window. His forearms moved across control panels while his yellow eyes searched for new targets. The Vortani Empire had conquered 47 star systems in the past year, and Veltar wanted to make it 48. The bridge crew worked quietly around him. Scanner Prime Kethalon sat at his station and watched energy patterns flow across his screens. Weapons Officer Zach Moll checked targeting systems for the 10th time that day. Navigation Officer Chindal plotted courses to 3 nearby star systems that showed signs of primitive life. All of them hoped to find easy prey today. "Commander," Kethalon called out. His voice carried the excitement of a hunter who had found fresh tracks. "I am detecting a small vessel at coordinates 779, Mark 42. Veltar turned, his massive head toward the scanner station. His neck spines flared with interest. "Show me." The main screen flickered and displayed a small ship moving slowly through the void. It looked tiny compared to the Vortani flagship. The vessel appeared to be made of simple metal plates welded together in basic patterns. No fancy curves or artistic designs like the ships of advanced races. Just straight lines and practical angles that spoke of a young civilization. "Distance?" Veltar asked. 12,000 kilometers and closing, Chindal reported from his station. "The vessel appears to be on a patrol route through this sector." Veltar studied the image with growing satisfaction. The ship looked exactly like the kind of primitive craft his empire loved to encounter: small crews, weak weapons, and governments that surrendered quickly when faced with superior firepower. These conquests barely qualified as military exercises anymore. "What species?" he demanded. Kethalon worked his controls and waited for data to flow through his systems. "Unknown configuration, Commander. The ship design does not match any known civilization in our databases. However, the construction style suggests a young race with basic metallurgy skills and primitive propulsion systems." "Perfect," Veltar said. His mandibles clicked together in what passed for a Vortani smile. "Begin standard approach protocols. I want full tactical scans of their vessel, crew complement, and defensive capabilities." "Yes, Commander," Kethalon replied. His fingers danced across scanning controls that had mapped the weaknesses of 1,000 enemy ships. Meanwhile, on the human vessel Iron Phoenix, Captain Han Sol Kim sat in his command chair and reviewed daily reports. The ship felt comfortable around him like an old jacket. Every sound and vibration told him stories about his vessel's health and mood. 23 crew members worked throughout the small ship, each one hand-picked for skill and reliability. The set. Iron Phoenix measured only 300 meters from nose to tail. Compared to the alien dreadnought approaching them, it looked like a fishing boat next to an aircraft carrier. Han Sol had commanded the vessel for 6 years and knew every bolt and wire in her hull. She might not look impressive, but she had never failed him when things got dangerous. "Captain," called Mi-Young Park from the tactical station. Her voice carried the calm professionalism that had made her the best sensor operator in the Terran Defense Force. "I am detecting a large vessel approaching from our starboard side. Configuration unknown, but definitely not human." Han Sol straightened in his chair. First contact situations always required careful handling. "Size and armament?" "Massive, sir. Roughly 15 kilometers in length with multiple weapon emplacements. The design suggests a military vessel built for conquest rather than exploration." "Are they scanning us?" "Yes, sir. Active scans across multiple frequencies. Very thorough but somewhat primitive in execution." Han Sol nodded. Most alien races used scanning technology that human engineers had abandoned decades ago. The techniques worked fine for basic analysis, but missed important details that modern sensors could detect. "Any signs of hostile intent?" "They are maintaining distance and have not powered weapons systems. However, their approach vector and scanning patterns suggest they consider us a potential target rather than a diplomatic contact." From the engineering section, Chief Engineer Dong-Hwan Lee called through the intercom. "Captain, I am reading some interesting energy signatures from that ship. Their power systems are impressively large, but remarkably inefficient. They must burn incredible amounts of fuel to maintain basic operations." Han Sol had worked with Dong Huan for 8 years and trusted his technical assessments completely. The man could diagnose engine problems by listening to subtle changes in harmonic frequencies. If he found their technology interesting, it usually meant the aliens had built something big and loud that accomplished simple tasks in complicated ways. Weapons Specialist Sojin Choi, what is your assessment? Sojin looked up from her station where she monitored the ship's defensive and offensive systems. Her screens showed readiness levels for weapons that most civilizations would consider impossible to build. Their scanning attempts are easily blocked by our standard passive measures, Captain. If they intend hostility, their weapons appear to be plasma-based with some kinetic projectile systems. Nothing that would threaten our hull integrity. Thank you. Mi Young, are they attempting communication? Broadcasting on several frequencies, sir. The signals are crude, but include mathematical concepts that suggest intelligence. Translation protocols are analyzing their language patterns now. Han Sol waited while the ship's computers worked through the complex task of establishing communication with an unknown species. The Iron Phoenix carried translation systems that had successfully decoded over 200 alien languages. Most followed predictable patterns based on mathematical relationships and basic physical concepts. Translation complete, Captain, Mi Young announced. They are demanding our immediate surrender and compliance with something called the Dominion Protocols. The message includes threats of destruction if we refuse to submit to their authority. Standard empire-building species, Han Sol observed. Are they aware that we understand their communications? Unknown, sir. Their broadcasts appear to be automatic rather than interactive. Dong Huan's voice came through the intercom again. Captain, their scanning intensity is increasing. They seem frustrated by our passive defense measures. I think they expected to penetrate our hull with their first attempts. Han Sol considered their situation carefully. The Iron Phoenix was on a routine patrol mission through this sector of space. Their orders included establishing peaceful contact with new civilizations when possible, but also defending human interests if threatened. The alien vessel's size and aggressive approach suggested a military encounter rather than a diplomatic meeting. Sojin, what are our tactical options? Complete spectrum of choices available, Captain. We can disable their weapons systems without harming crew, destroy specific ship sections to eliminate threats, or demonstrate superior capabilities to encourage peaceful resolution. Recommendations? Begin with passive resistance and defensive measures. If they attack, respond with minimal necessary force. Their technology appears to be several generations behind our current capabilities. Han Sol nodded. Mi Young, prepare a standard first contact package. Include basic information about human civilization and our peaceful intentions. Also include clear warnings about the consequences of unprovoked aggression. Package ready, Captain. Should I transmit? Not yet. Let them make the first move. If they are simply curious about us, we will respond with friendship. If they intend conquest, they will learn why that is not advisable. On the Vortani flagship, Kethlon worked frantically at his scanning station. The readings made no sense according to everything he knew about physics and engineering. The human ship's hull appeared to be constructed from materials that should not exist. Their power signatures suggested energy sources that violated basic thermodynamic principles. Their defensive systems casually deflected scanning attempts that should penetrate any known armor. Commander, Kethlon said. His voice carried notes of confusion and growing concern. I am having difficulty analyzing their vessel. The scans are being blocked by some form of passive defense system. Increase power and try different frequencies, Veltar ordered. No primitive race has technology that can resist proper Vortani analysis. Kethlon adjusted his controls and directed more energy toward the human ship. The enhanced scans revealed even more disturbing information. The vessel's reactor output appeared to exceed the total power generation of several Vortani worlds combined. Their hull materials bent space around them in patterns that suggested mastery of gravitational manipulation. Their weapon systems remained inactive, but showed energy conduits capable of channeling stellar-level forces. Commander, Kethlon whispered. I think we may have made an error in our initial assessment. Kethlon stared at his scanning displays with growing horror. Numbers that should have been impossible filled his screens. Energy readings that violated everything he understood about physics flowed past his eyes like water. The small human vessel continued its slow patrol route while casually defying the laws of nature with every passing second. "Commander Veltar," he called out. His voice cracked like a young recruit facing his first battle. "The enhanced scans are showing readings that cannot be accurate." Veltar moved across the bridge with heavy steps that echoed through the metal corridors of his ship. His four arms gestured impatiently while his yellow eyes fixed on the scanner displays. "Show me what you have discovered." Kethalon activated the main viewing screen and transferred his sensor data to the larger display. Charts and graphs filled the screen with information that made the bridge crew step back in shock. The human ship's reactor signature alone exceeded the power output of the Vortani homeworld's primary energy stations. "This reading suggests their propulsion system generates more energy than our entire fleet combined," Kethalon explained. His mandibles clicked nervously as he spoke. "But that is impossible for a vessel of their size." Weapons Officer Zach Mole leaned forward from his station. "Perhaps their instruments are creating false readings to confuse our scans?" I considered. "That possibility," Kethalon replied. "However, the energy patterns are too consistent and complex to be artificial deceptions. The quantum signatures match theoretical models for controlled antimatter reactions." "Antimatter?" Veltar's voice rose to a dangerous pitch. "You are suggesting that primitive species has mastered controlled antimatter containment?" "The readings are unmistakable, Commander. Their reactor core maintains stable antimatter reactions at temperatures and pressures that our science considers impossible to achieve." Navigation Officer Chindal checked his own instruments and confirmed the disturbing data. "Commander, if these readings are accurate, a single failure in their containment system would release enough energy to vaporize everything within 100,000 kilometers." Veltar felt his confidence begin to crack like old armor under stress. The Vortani Empire had conquered dozens of civilizations by identifying their weaknesses and exploiting technological gaps. Superior firepower and advanced tactics had won every battle for the past century. But these readings suggested an enemy with capabilities far beyond anything his empire had ever encountered. Meanwhile, in the engine room of the Iron Phoenix, Dong Huanli monitored the alien scanning attempts with professional interest. His assistant Junho Yoon worked at a nearby console and tracked the various frequencies the aliens used to probe their hull. "They are very persistent," Junho observed. "This is the fourth different scanning protocol they have attempted in the past 10 minutes. Donghuan chuckled and adjusted some controls on his engineering panel. "Their techniques are surprisingly primitive. They are using basic electromagnetic pulses to try to penetrate our quantum shielding. It is like trying to examine the inside of a star with a flashlight. Should we allow them to gather some basic information about our systems?" "No need to. Be rude to our new neighbors," Donghuan replied. "Let them see enough to understand that we are not helpless, but not enough to cause panic. Adjust the passive deflectors to allow limited penetration of non-critical areas." Junho modified the defensive settings to permit shallow scans of the ship's outer hull while blocking access to important systems. The changes would give the aliens enough information to understand they faced advanced technology without revealing the true extent of human capabilities. On the Vortani ship, Kethalon noticed the sudden improvement in his sensor readings. "Commander, their defensive systems appear to have decreased in effectiveness. I am now able to analyze their hull composition and basic structural elements." "Excellent. What have you learned?" Kethalon worked his controls and gathered detailed information about the human vessel's construction. The results that appeared on his screens made him question his own sanity. "Commander, their hull materials register as impossibly dense and strong. The molecular structure appears to incorporate elements that do not exist in our periodic charts." "Explain." "The metal composites they use for basic hull plating test, stronger than our best battle armor. Their structural supports could withstand direct hits from our heaviest weapons. The entire vessel appears to be built from materials that we would consider suitable only for the most critical military applications." Zakmol studied the tactical implications of this information. "If their hull can resist our weapons, what about their offensive capabilities?" "Unknown but concerning," Kethalon admitted. "Their weapon ports appear small and simple, but the energy conduits leading to them could channel forces equivalent to our main battle cannons. The power routing suggests they can direct their entire reactor output through any individual weapon system." "Their entire reactor output?" Veltar felt his blood run cold. That would mean each of their weapons could deliver more destructive force than our ship's primary armament. Correct, Commander. And they appear to have 17 independent weapon systems distributed throughout their hull. The bridge fell silent as the crew absorbed this information. Every officer understood the mathematics of space combat. Superior firepower combined with stronger defenses meant inevitable defeat for the weaker force. The small human patrol ship could apparently destroy their massive dreadnought with casual ease. Back on the Iron Phoenix, Captain Hansol Kim reviewed the tactical analysis his crew had prepared about their alien visitors. Mi-young Park had identified the ship's basic capabilities and limitations, while So-jin Choi had analyzed their weapons and defensive systems. Summary report, Hansol requested. Mi-young cleared her throat and read from her displays. Large military, vessel with crew estimated between 800 and 1,000 individuals. Primary armament consists of plasma cannons and kinetic projectile systems. Defensive measures include basic energy shields and thick armor plating. Overall assessment: typical aggressive empire builders with technology roughly equivalent to human systems from 60 years ago. Threat level: minimal to non-existent, Captain. Their weapons could not penetrate our passive deflector grid. Their armor could not withstand our lightest point defense systems. If hostilities develop, we could disable their entire vessel without risking damage to our own hull. So-jin added her own observations from the weapons console. Captain, their scanning attempts suggest they are trying to identify weaknesses in our defenses. The patterns match standard pre-combat analysis protocols. They may be preparing for aggressive action. Recommendations: continue peaceful overtures while maintaining defensive readiness. If they attack first, respond with minimum necessary force to protect human interests and demonstrate our technological superiority. Hansol nodded his approval of the assessment. The Iron Phoenix had encountered similar situations during previous patrol missions. Most aggressive alien species backed down quickly once they understood the futility of attacking human vessels. A few demonstrations of superior capability usually convinced even the most stubborn empire builders to reconsider their conquest plans. Mi-young, transmit our first contact package on their primary communication frequency. Include standard diplomatic protocols and peaceful greeting messages. Transmitting now, Captain. The data package streamed across space toward the Vortani flagship. It contained basic information about human civilization, examples of human technology, and clear statements about humanity's preference for peaceful coexistence. However, it also included detailed explanations of human defensive capabilities and the consequences that would follow any unprovoked attacks. On the alien bridge, Communications Officer Ralvin detected the incoming transmission and announced its arrival. Commander, the unknown vessel is sending structured data on multiple frequencies. The transmission appears to contain language, mathematics, and technical information. Transfer it to the analysis computers for translation, Veltar ordered. The Vortani translation systems began processing the human data package, while Kethalon continued his detailed scans of the Iron Phoenix. Every new piece of information made their situation appear more desperate. The human ship's artificial gravity systems operated on principles that Vortani scientists considered impossible. Their navigation equipment included sensors that could apparently detect objects across interstellar distances. Their life support systems maintained perfect environmental conditions using energy expenditures that seemed almost negligible. Commander, Kethalon whispered, I believe we may have encountered something far beyond our ability to comprehend or conquer. Veltar studied the accumulated data with growing dread. His empire had built its power on the principle that superior technology and overwhelming force could defeat any enemy. But the readings suggested these humans possessed capabilities that made Vortani advantages meaningless. Their single patrol vessel could apparently outfight his entire fleet, while using only a fraction of its potential power. The translation computers completed their analysis of the human transmission and displayed the results on the main screen. Veltar read the peaceful greetings and diplomatic offers with increasing unease. Commander Veltar stood in the center of his bridge and felt the weight of Empire expectations pressing down on his shoulders. For 3 generations, his family had served the Vortani Dominion by conquering primitive species and expanding their territory. His grandfather had claimed 12 star systems. His father had added 21 more to the Empire. Veltar himself had conquered 14 systems in just 2 years of command. The idea of retreating from a single small vessel filled him with shame that burned hotter than plasma fire. His crew watched him with expectant eyes. His superiors expected reports of another successful conquest. The Dominion had built its reputation on the principle that Vortani military might could overcome any resistance. Communications Officer Ralvin, Veltar commanded. Send a message to the human vessel. Inform them that they have 10 minutes to surrender unconditionally or face destruction. Ralvin hesitated before carrying out the order. Commander, their previous transmission included warnings about the consequences of aggressive action. Perhaps we should consider diplomatic alternatives. The Vortani Empire does not negotiate with primitive species, Veltar replied. His voice carried the cold authority that had intimidated countless enemies. We offer them the choice to surrender, with honor, or die with futility. Send the message. The ultimatum streamed across space toward the Iron Phoenix while Veltar activated fleet communication systems. All ships, this is the flagship. Move to attack formation around the human vessel. Prepare for standard conquest protocols. 11 additional Vortani warships responded to the command and began shifting positions around the small patrol craft. Each vessel stretched over 5 kilometers in length and carried enough firepower to level continents. Together they formed a sphere of overwhelming military power that should terrify any reasonable enemy into immediate submission. Scanner Prime Kethlon watched the tactical display with growing anxiety. His detailed analysis of the human ship suggested capabilities that made their numerical advantage meaningless. But Veltar had made his decision, and Vortani discipline demanded obedience to superior officers. On the Iron Phoenix, Mi Young Park detected the movement of alien vessels with calm professionalism. Captain, 11 additional ships are approaching our position. They appear to be taking attack formation around us. Captain Han-Sol Kim studied the tactical display that showed 12 large alien vessels arranging themselves in a classic pincer pattern. The formation was designed to minimize escape routes while maximizing concentrated firepower. It represented standard military doctrine for overwhelming smaller opponents. Assessment of their capabilities? Han-Sol asked. Similar technology and armament as the flagship, Mi Young replied. Each vessel carries significant offensive and defensive systems, but operates on principles we abandoned decades ago. Combined firepower is substantial, but not threatening to our defensive systems. So Jin Choi looked up from her weapons console. Captain, they are powering weapon systems and preparing targeting solutions. Their attack pattern suggests they plan to fire simultaneously from multiple angles. Any change in their communication attempts? Yes, sir. They have transmitted what appears to be a surrender demand with time limitations. Translation systems indicate we have approximately 8 minutes to comply with their ultimatum. Han-Sol sighed deeply and rubbed his temples. First contact situations always carried the potential for misunderstandings and cultural conflicts. The aliens apparently belonged to a typical conquest-oriented civilization that viewed negotiation as weakness and overwhelming force as the solution to all problems. Dong Huan, what is the status of our defensive systems? The chief engineer's voice came through the intercom from the engine room. All systems operating at minimal power levels, Captain. Our passive deflectors are more than adequate to handle anything they might shoot at us. I could reinforce our shielding if necessary, but their weapons appear to be incapable of threatening our hull integrity. Sojin, tactical options. Complete spectrum available, Captain. I can disable their weapons without harming crew members, destroy specific ship sections to eliminate threats, or demonstrate our superior capabilities to encourage peaceful resolution. What about disabling their engines without permanent damage? Easily accomplished, sir. Their propulsion systems appear to be vulnerable to targeted electromagnetic pulses. I can strand their entire fleet in space while leaving life support and basic systems intact. Han-Sol considered the ethical implications of their situation. The Iron Phoenix carried enough firepower to destroy all 12 alien vessels in seconds. But human military doctrine emphasized minimal necessary force and protection of civilian populations. Even aggressive aliens deserved the chance to reconsider their actions before facing consequences. Prepare minimal response options, Han-Sol decided. If they attack, disable their weapons and propulsion systems only. No permanent damage to hull integrity or life support systems. Understood, Captain. Meanwhile, on the Vortani flagship, Weapons Officer Zach Mole completed targeting calculations for the coordinated attack. His screens showed firing solutions that would concentrate maximum destructive force on the human vessel from 12 different angles. The mathematical precision should guarantee complete destruction of any known ship type. All vessels report ready for combat action, Zach Mole announced. Targeting computers have calculated optimal firing patterns to ensure total elimination of the enemy craft. Veltar studied the tactical display with satisfaction. 12 Vortani warships against one small patrol vessel represented overwhelming superiority by any reasonable standard. Even if the humans possessed advanced technology, they could not possibly survive concentrated fire from an entire battle group. "Time remaining on ultimatum?" he asked. 3 minutes, Commander, Ralvin replied. "Any response from the human vessel?" They transmitted a message suggesting diplomatic alternatives to armed conflict. The transmission included additional technical data about their defensive capabilities and requests for peaceful resolution. Veltar dismissed the human diplomatic efforts with contempt. Desperate words from primitives who realize they face superior force. They hope to delay our attack while they prepare some futile escape attempt. Kethalon cleared his throat nervously. "Commander, their technical data includes specifications that suggest their defensive systems could withstand our combined firepower." "Impossible!" Veltar snapped. "No single vessel can resist attack from 12 battle-tested warships. Their claims are obviously exaggerated to make us hesitate." The countdown timer reached 0 while the human ship continued its slow patrol route without taking any defensive action. Veltar interpreted their lack of response as proof of either arrogance or desperation. Either way, the time for mercy had passed. "All ships," Veltar broadcast to his fleet. "Open fire." 12 Vortani warships unleashed simultaneous salvos of plasma cannon fire, particle beam weapons, and kinetic projectiles. The combined barrage contained enough destructive energy to vaporize asteroids or level mountain ranges. Hundreds of individual weapons fired in perfect coordination to create a focused storm of annihilation. The attack converged on the Iron Phoenix from all directions, while the Vortani crews watched their display screens with anticipation. They expected to see the human vessel disappear in a brief flash of expanding debris and superheated gases. Victory celebrations were already being planned in the crew quarters of several ships. Instead, something happened that violated everything the Vortani understood about physics and military tactics. The concentrated firepower of their entire battle group simply vanished when it touched the human ship's hull. Plasma beams disappeared like water drops on hot metal. Particle weapons scattered harmlessly in all directions. Kinetic projectiles disintegrated into atomic dust before impact. The Iron Phoenix continued moving along its patrol route without slowing down or changing course. No damage was visible on its hull. No energy discharges indicated stressed defensive systems. The ship absorbed the attack of 12 warships as easily as a mountain absorbs raindrops. On the human vessel, So-Jin Choi glanced at her defensive system displays and shook her head with mild disappointment. "Captain, they are tickling us with their weapons. Our passive deflectors are not even registering measurable strain." "Damage assessment?" Han Sol asked. "No damage to any system, sir. Their combined firepower is insufficient to overload our most basic defensive measures." Dong Huan's voice came through the intercom with amusement clearly audible in his tone. "Captain, I think they are trying very hard to hurt us, but their weapons are like throwing rocks at a battleship. Should I activate countermeasures?" "Not yet," Han Sol replied. "Mi Young, open a communication channel to their flagship." "Channel open, Captain. This is Captain Han Sol Kim of the Terran vessel Iron Phoenix. Your unprovoked attack has been noted and logged according to standard first contact protocols. We strongly advise immediate cessation of hostilities and return to diplomatic discussion. We have no desire to harm your crews, but we will defend ourselves if necessary." The message transmitted to the Vortani flagship while their crews stared at sensor readings that made no sense according to everything they knew about military science. The silence on the Vortani flagship stretched like a taut cable, ready to snap. Commander Veltar stared at his tactical displays while his mind struggled to process what his sensors were telling him. 12 warships had fired their most powerful weapons at a single target. Every shot had connected with perfect accuracy. The target should have been vaporized instantly. Instead, the human patrol craft continued moving along its route as if nothing had happened. No explosion, no debris field, no distress signals. The small vessel had absorbed the concentrated firepower of an entire battle group without slowing down or changing course. "Scanner report," Veltar demanded. His voice came out as a harsh whisper instead of his usual commanding tone. Kethalon worked frantically at his station while sweat dripped from his alien features onto the control panels. "No damage detected on the human vessel, Commander. Their hull shows no signs of impact, stress, or energy absorption. It appears our weapons never touched them." "Impossible. We saw the plasma beams strike their hull." "Yes, Commander. But the energy signatures suggest our weapons were somehow neutralized before making contact. Their defensive systems operated without generating detectable power spikes or shield fluctuations." Weapons Officer Zach Moll checked his own instruments and confirmed the impossible readings. "All weapon systems fired successfully, Commander. Targeting computers registered direct hits on the enemy vessel, but sensors indicate 0 damage inflicted on the target." Navigation Officer Chindal studied the tactical display with growing horror. "Commander, the human ship is changing course. They are moving directly toward our position." Veltar felt ice water flow through his veins as he watched the small patrol craft turn away from its original route and accelerate toward his flagship. The movement appeared casual and unhurried, but it carried implications that terrified him, more than any aggressive charge. The humans were approaching them with the confidence of predators who knew their prey could not escape. On the Iron Phoenix, Captain Han Sol Kim sat in his command chair and studied the alien formation with professional interest. The enemy vessels had arranged themselves in textbook attack positions and delivered exactly the kind of overwhelming assault that should destroy any conventional target. Their tactics were sound, and their execution was precise. Unfortunately, for them, human defensive technology had advanced far beyond conventional limitations decades ago. The Iron Phoenix carried passive deflector systems that could absorb the energy output of small stars. The alien weapons were impressive by their standards, but completely inadequate to threaten human vessels. Mi Young, any response to our diplomatic message? No reply, Captain. Their communication systems appear to be active, but they are not transmitting anything intelligible. So, Jin, have they ceased hostile actions? Negative, sir. They are recharging weapons systems and appear to be preparing for a second attack. Energy signatures suggest they are drawing power from auxiliary sources to increase firepower. Han Sol sighed and made the decision he had hoped to avoid. Mi Young, prepare a comprehensive cultural and technical data package for transmission to their flagship. Include detailed specifications for our defensive systems, examples of human military capabilities, and clear explanations of why continued aggression is inadvisable. Package prepared, Captain. Should I include historical examples of human warfare? Yes. Make sure they understand what we consider primitive weapons technology. The data package streamed across space toward the Vortani fleet while Han Sol prepared for what would likely be a very short demonstration of human military superiority. He had hoped these aliens would prove more reasonable than the typical conquest-oriented species, but their actions suggested otherwise. So, Jin, I want minimal force response options only. These beings appear to be acting from ignorance rather than malice. Disable their weapons and propulsion systems without causing casualties. Understood, Captain. I can accomplish that mission with a single low-power pulse from our point defense grid. Proceed when ready. So Jin activated one of the Iron Phoenix's 17 weapon systems. The device she selected was classified as a non-lethal pacification system designed for crowd control and riot suppression. Human military doctrine considered it suitable only for the most minor police actions. It generated focused electromagnetic pulses that could disrupt electronic systems without damaging hull integrity or life support equipment. The pulse fired from the human vessel and spread out in a controlled pattern that touched every alien ship in the formation. The energy wave moved at light speed and struck each target simultaneously with surgical precision. On the Vortani vessels, weapons systems shut down immediately as their power conduits overloaded. Engine cores went into emergency shutdown mode as safety protocols activated to prevent catastrophic failures. Navigation computers crashed and rebooted while displaying error messages in a dozen alien languages. In less than 3 seconds, 12 Vortani warships had been reduced to helpless hulks drifting in space. Their life support systems continued, operating normally, but every offensive and propulsive capability had been eliminated with casual ease. The human patrol craft had disabled an entire battle group using what their computers classified as minimum necessary force. On the flagship, emergency lighting bathed the bridge in red illumination, while backup power systems struggled to maintain basic operations. Kethlon stared at his dead scanner displays in shock. Zakmol tried repeatedly to restart his weapons console without success. Chindal reported complete engine failure across all primary and secondary propulsion systems. "Damage report," Veltar ordered. "No hull damage, Commander," Kethlon replied. "Life support systems operating normally. However, all weapons and propulsion systems have suffered catastrophic electronic failures. We are dead in space." "All ships report the same condition," Ralvan added. "The entire fleet has been disabled simultaneously." Veltar felt his world collapse around him like a house built from paper. His mighty battle group had been defeated in seconds by a single small patrol vessel using what appeared to be a minor defensive system. The humans had demonstrated capabilities that made Vortani military power look like children playing with toys. The cultural data package from the Iron Phoenix finally processed through the emergency computers and displayed its contents on the few working screens. Veltar read about human civilization with mounting horror as he began to understand the magnitude of his mistake. Humans had developed their advanced weapons technology during centuries of warfare against their own species. What the Vortani considered their most powerful armaments, humans had used to kill each other over territorial disputes and resource allocation. The plasma cannons that could destroy cities were described in human historical records as primitive projectile weapons. The energy shields that protected Vortani capital ships were classified as obsolete technology in human databases. The Iron Phoenix was identified as a Class C patrol vessel suitable for routine security duties and minor diplomatic missions. It carried light armament appropriate for peacekeeping operations and crowd control situations. The humans considered it adequate for encounters with pre-space civilizations and basic piracy suppression. "Commander," Kethlon whispered. "According to this data, their patrol ship carries enough firepower to destroy our entire home fleet, and they classify it as a minor vessel with limited combat capabilities." Veltar studied the specifications with growing despair. The human reactor could power a dozen Vortani worlds. Their hull materials could withstand direct hits from weapons that existed only in theoretical designs. Their defensive systems casually manipulated forces that Vortani science declared impossible to control. But the most terrifying revelation came in the historical sections of the data package. Humans had fought wars involving billions of casualties, while confined to a single star system. They had developed interstellar combat technology as a natural extension of weapons designed to kill their own species. Their military doctrine assumed enemies with capabilities equal to their own. "What have we done?" Veltar asked quietly. The answer came in the form of another transmission from the Iron Phoenix. Captain Hansol's voice carried calm authority as he addressed the disabled Vortani fleet. "This is Captain Kim of the Iron Phoenix. Your weapons and propulsion systems have been temporarily disabled to prevent further misunderstandings. We have taken no hostile action against your crews or life support systems. We strongly recommend immediate cessation of aggressive behavior and return to diplomatic protocols. We are prepared to provide assistance with repairs to your vessels and offer medical aid to any injured personnel. However, we must insist that all future interactions follow peaceful guidelines established by interstellar law. Any additional attacks will be met with appropriate defensive measures. We await your response and hope for a peaceful resolution to this unfortunate situation." The transmission ended while Veltar struggled to comprehend his position. His battle group floated helplessly in space at the mercy of beings whose casual defensive systems had neutralized his most powerful weapons. The humans offered to help repair the damage they had inflicted while maintaining the polite fiction that this had been a misunderstanding rather than a complete military defeat. The communication channel crackled to life between the two vessels as Commander Veltar prepared to speak words he had never imagined saying. Surrender had never been part of Vortani military vocabulary. For generations, his people had been the ones receiving surrender from conquered species. Now he found himself in the opposite position, humbled by beings whose existence had been unknown just hours before. "This is Commander Veltar of the Vortani vessel Dominion's Edge," he began. His voice carried the weight of defeat and the bitter taste of shattered pride. "We accept your offer of assistance and formally request peaceful negotiations to resolve this conflict." Captain Hansol Kim received the transmission while sitting in his command chair aboard the Iron Phoenix. The tone and content of the alien commander's message told him everything he needed to know about the situation. These beings had learned their lesson about the dangers of unprovoked aggression against human vessels. "This is Captain Kim. We are pleased to hear of your decision to pursue diplomatic solutions. Please transmit your current status and repair requirements. We will provide whatever assistance is necessary to ensure the safety of your crews." On the Vortani flagship, Scanner Prime, Kethlon worked frantically to assess the damage caused by the human weapon pulse. His instruments showed extensive electronic failures throughout the ship, but the precision of the attack amazed him more than the destruction it had caused. Every weapons system had been disabled without affecting life support. All propulsion systems had shut down safely without causing reactor containment failures. The humans had surgically removed their offensive capabilities while leaving everything else intact. "Commander," Kethlon reported, "the human attack was incredibly precise. They eliminated only systems that could pose threats while carefully preserving everything needed to keep our crews alive. This level of targeting accuracy suggests weapons technology far beyond anything we have encountered." Weapons Officer Zakamol tried once again to restart his console systems without success. "All weapon systems show complete electronic failure. Commander, however, the failures appear to be temporary. Their attack destroyed circuits and processors but left the basic hardware undamaged. With proper repair work, we could restore functionality to most systems." Navigation Officer Chindal reported similar findings from his station. "Engine systems are offline but structurally sound, Commander. The humans could have destroyed our vessels completely, but they chose to disable us instead." Veltar absorbed these reports while struggling to understand the implications. The humans possessed the power to annihilate his entire battle group in seconds, but they had chosen to use minimal force and offer assistance afterward. This behavior contradicted everything Vortani culture taught about conquest and military superiority. Meanwhile, Mi-Young Park had been analyzing communication intercepts from the alien fleet. Her translation computers had decoded dozens of conversations between Vortani crew members as they tried to understand what had happened to them. The emotional content of these messages painted a clear picture of beings who had just discovered their place in the galactic hierarchy. "Captain," Mi-Young reported, "I am detecting widespread communication activity among the alien vessels. Translation indicates they are sharing technical data about our weapon systems and defensive capabilities. The general tone suggests shock and disbelief at our superior technology. Are they coordinating any additional hostile actions?" "Negative, sir. Their conversations focus entirely on damage assessment and speculation about human military power. Several ship commanders are recommending immediate withdrawal from human space. So Jin Choi had been monitoring the disabled alien vessels for signs of weapons reactivation or other threats. Her sensors showed ships full of confused and frightened beings who were beginning to grasp the reality of their situation. Captain, they are not attempting to restore weapons systems. Power signatures suggest they are focusing entirely on life support and communication systems. I detect no preparations for renewed hostilities." Hansol nodded with satisfaction. The demonstration had achieved its intended effect without unnecessary casualties or destruction. The aliens had learned about human capabilities in the most effective way possible, through direct experience of superior technology applied with restraint and precision. Donghuan, prepare a technical assistance package for transmission to their fleet. Include basic repair instructions for the systems we disabled and offer to provide replacement components if needed. The chief engineer's voice came through the intercom with characteristic efficiency. "Package ready, Captain. I have included step-by-step procedures for repairing electromagnetic pulse damage and restoring electronic systems. The repairs should be within their technical capabilities." "Excellent. Mi-Young, transmit the repair package along with a comprehensive cultural exchange data set. Include information about human history, technology development, and our policies regarding interstellar relations." The data package streamed across space toward the Vortani fleet, while containing information that would fundamentally alter their understanding of the galaxy. Human historical records showed a species that had fought devastating wars for thousands of years before achieving space travel. They had developed weapons of incredible destructive power while learning hard lessons about the costs of conflict. Technical specifications revealed capabilities that made Vortani achievements look primitive by comparison. Human scientists had mastered controlled fusion reactions while still living on their home world. They had developed faster-than-light travel using principles that Vortani physicists considered impossible. Their military technology represented the natural evolution of weapons designed to fight enemies with equal capabilities. On the alien flagship, the data processing computers worked through the massive information transfer, while crew members gathered around working displays to read about their new neighbors. What they learned challenged every assumption their civilization had made about technological development and military power. "Commander," Cathalon said with wonder in his voice, "according to these records, humans developed antimatter containment technology over 60 years ago. They consider it standard equipment for routine patrol vessels." "What about their weapons?" Zachamol asked. "The device they used against us is classified as a non-lethal crowd control system. It ranks near the bottom of their weapons hierarchy. Their actual military vessels carry armaments that could destroy entire star systems." Veltar felt his remaining confidence crumble as he read about human military doctrine and strategic capabilities. The Iron Phoenix was indeed a minor patrol vessel assigned to routine security duties in peaceful sectors. Its captain held the equivalent rank of a junior officer in the Terran Defense Force. The ship itself was considered suitable only for missions involving pre-space civilizations and basic law enforcement. "How many ships do they have?" Chindal asked quietly. Cathalon consulted the data files and found information that made him regret asking the question. Their records indicate over 50,000 active military vessels of various classes. This includes several hundred ships classified as planet killers and dozens of vessels capable of destroying entire star systems. 50,000 ships like this one? No, Commander. This vessel ranks in their lowest military category. Their main battle fleets carry weapons and defenses that make this patrol ship look primitive. The bridge fell silent as the crew absorbed the mathematical reality of their situation. 50,000 human warships, each one potentially more powerful than this patrol vessel that had effortlessly defeated their entire battle group. The numbers represented military might beyond anything their empire could hope to challenge. But the most disturbing information came in the historical sections that described human development patterns. These beings had created their advanced technology while fighting wars against their own species. They understood conflict at levels that peaceful conquests could never teach. Their military doctrine assumed enemies with capabilities equal to their own, which meant they had prepared for wars against opponents who could match their technological superiority. "Commander," Ralvin announced, "we are receiving another transmission from the human vessel." Captain Kim's voice filled the bridge with calm authority as he addressed the alien fleet. "We have transmitted repair instructions for your damaged systems and offered to provide replacement components if needed. We hope this gesture demonstrates our sincere desire for peaceful relations with your people. We understand that cultural differences may have contributed to this unfortunate misunderstanding. Humans prefer to resolve conflicts through negotiation rather than force, but we will defend ourselves when necessary. We hope your civilization will choose the path of cooperation over continued aggression. If you require additional assistance or wish to establish formal diplomatic relations, we are prepared to facilitate contact between your government and appropriate human authorities. We believe that mutual understanding and beneficial trade relationships serve the interests of both our species better than military conflict." The transmission ended while Veltar considered his response options.